These thoughts are not my own. These thoughts are not my own, and that I know every thought I think somebody else is thinking. That anything that comes into our paradigm typically comes from the existing consciousness field and not from my own conscious effort. Conscious effort only gives you the ability to understand it better and with more detail and refinement and skill. But the actual creative thoughts and the ideas come from the void, which is either shared or so overlapping that it can be assumed to be one consciousness field. When I say so overlapping, in that 99.99999 percent of what I would think is the same as the available thoughts of what the person next to me might think. There's obviously a lot outside of those two circles, but most of us are existing in circles that are so overlapping that they might as well be the same. And that's what you might call the consciousness field and the 100th monkey effect. That if somebody thinks a thought, it becomes available in our shared field, probably through resonance mechanics, but maybe not. Maybe it's through, something deeper like a shared electromagnetic structure where all thought is stored, presumably for our planetary species. But no, it goes beyond that, clearly, right? Clearly, there's interaction beyond that. As far as applying this practically to my own behavior in life, I need to recognize that these thoughts are not my own. That I'm free to think any thought I want and engage with any material I want. Fundamentally, it's not mine, and therefore I don't need to identify with it. If anything, identifying with a thought or an idea is more identifying with a group of people who also identify with that thought and theory. But in the end, that thought and theory is not theirs. They don't own it. It will exist without them, though it will likely have significantly less effect and impact on our society without them. So when you champion an idea, recognize that it's not your own, and then you can disidentify with it. And yeah, choose to support it with your energy or not support it with your energy, or even actively resist it. But once you realize that your thoughts are not your own and the other person's thoughts are not their own, and they're just all existing in a huge field of available things to think about, why resist one thought or the other, right? uh, be in the mental space where you would like to be. And for me personally, the main challenge is the moodiness. Uh, when I'm in a good mood, I'm perfectly happy to engage with really healthy material. But when the grind's got me down, or truthfully, I have myself down, it's the moodiness and the emotions of that are holding me in a state where I would want to watch and engage with material that is entertaining but not beneficial. And that's not to say that it's bad. It's just, it's not useful. Not useful enough, anyways, when compared to the massive field of information available to me and to you and to all of us in this 99.99999% overlap. That's just one way to conceptualize it. I have to admit that personally, I do believe in a social memory complex. I would describe that as the shared conscious space of a community. And then the size of communities can be increased and decreased depending on the scope of what you're talking about. And so, yeah, there might be a shared set of assumptions and beliefs and understandings and things to think about and talk about in a particular region. But fundamentally, the existing assumption is that planet Earth, humans on planet Earth, share a social memory complex that we're born into and have access to and share. And anytime you discover something, you are discovering it along with a lot of other people simultaneously to different degrees and different variations and different shades and colored glasses of everybody's different perspective of this thing that you just discovered inside your own mind. Um, and that's why you're helping people when you think about good things, uh, and work towards good within your own heart. The rest of humanity resonates with you, and your active choice to engage with good material is making that thought occur to other people less deliberate with their own thoughts. The larger assumption is that there's an even bigger social memory complex that not only includes all the species on Earth and Earth herself, but also the galaxy. Um, that and our universe, right? And who knows, maybe the myriad universes also share a social memory complex, right? You just scale it, scales and scales. Um, but primarily our galaxy, because it does seem like our galaxy within itself is pretty self-contained for our context, and that there are waves emanating from the galactic center, affecting our sun, affecting us directly and downstream. Anyhow, to get back to the practical, right? These thoughts are not my own, so I don't need to own them. These are ideas. I don't need to represent them or argue them or share them. They're essentially another human perspective on a perceived perception. The reason this is relevant for me is that I do identify with the things that I see as beneficial. And I typically try not to identify with the things that I see as unpleasant in my own context, right? So within my own country, for example, whatever politics I disagree with, right? Actively rejecting it. And you want to play the game, right? You want to interact with the world and make good decisions, but you're essentially surfing on waves of consciousness in the social memory complex. And to fight each wave is absurd when you're surfing or swimming, right? If a fish is in the ocean, there's times where it swims with the current and there's times where it swims against the current, depending on how it benefits the fish, where the food is, where the predators are, and what's most comfortable. And so the same thing goes with the various things that are coming at me in my life. It's a wave. It might be a persistent wave that does need to be processed. But I don't need to identify with it. So that's one thing for things coming at me. The other way, though, the inverse way, is when I behave in ways and think in ways that I am ashamed of, I try to not identify with those behaviors. And then the response, the like psychological, emotional, energetic response is to push it down. When truthfully, the negative thoughts and behaviors and temptations of my local social memory complex are just as much not mine as the beneficial things are. And I can just sidestep it. I can just do something else. And then so it comes back to the emotion. My emotions feel self-destructive and I don't want to do things that I know I should be doing. And it's the rejection of those things that then becomes a life pattern. Good luck, bon chance, and many blessings on your journey, wherever it may lead, whatever you need to become or already are. Congratulations. You're wonderful. Peace and love to you.